Lexington's an interesting town. It real strong ties, historical community, very emotional ties there as well. Lexington has a great community spirit, a lot of community involvement. I mean, that's just what we are. In a modern day, it's unusual and unique.
This building was built in 1868 by John Ellison Cheatham. I'm particularly fond of him because I live now in the house that he built for himself. This building had been used as the Chamber of Commerce and had been abandoned. And it was not only unsightly, but it was dangerous. It had probably been abandoned 6 or 8 years. At the time, Bob and Margie Langdon were also doing buildings in town and using the historic tax credits, and they said, hey, you need to buy that building and use those tax credits. And it enabled me to do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to justify it or afford doing it. And since then, it's been a little boutique and a very successful one. And it has employed a number of local women where there'd been no employment before. Not to mention, it's generated sales tax and interest for tourism. And it's been a real success. I've been really happy with it. I've been really proud of this project, actually. I think it triggered the whole development of downtown.
Well, there's been a federal historic rehabilitation tax credit around for many decades. But in 1997, Missouri passed a state historic tax credit, which was designed to spur reinvestment in aging buildings and aging infrastructure in the cores of small towns and the big cities across the state.
The way it works is this. Say you own a historic building in need of restoration. First, you determine what needs to be done in order to complete the renovation, and then you determine what aspects of the work are tax credit eligible. Then you work with state reviewers to make sure that your project adheres to certain strict standards and thoroughly document all the work with photographs and receipts. When the project's complete, you turn in the documentation to the state and they issue tax credits that can be used to cover the cost of qualified expenses. Your tax credits can be used to offset tax liability or can be sold to another entity for cash.
So I was rehabbing before the state credit went into effect, but the federal was always there. As soon as the state went into effect, I've been using it. I average 1 a year. I have a steady pace. I know what I'm qualified to do, and it works out beautiful.
I think that the program allows for a developer to take a little bit of a risk to do what's right as a developer. So we all try to be altruistic, but I couldn't do these projects without the program. Next door to this house, the Droston house, is a little cottage. That project could not have happened. Without that house being renovated, I don't know if I would have done this. Without this, I don't know if the neighbor across the street would have renovated their property, or the guy down the street who renovated one, or the guy across the street. So it allows a developer to be more altruistic than they might otherwise be.
Without the tax credits, most of these projects we wouldn't even start. It would be cheaper just to go tear down a cornfield, throw up some new construction, 40-year, 50-year type stuff that you'd have to throw away and do later, versus these big old 100-year-old buildings that were built to last that are almost, really hard to tear down. They're just so thick-walled and so forth.
There is a misconception that tax credits are for urban areas and not rural areas. We have saved main streets throughout rural Missouri. It is a fantastic program.
The construction company that did this probably got their start from specializing in historic renovation, and they were used on all these projects. I used them. They're still in town. They're very successful and still doing a lot of projects.
We have a home renovation business, construction company as a whole. We call myself a general contractor. We now employ 20 to 25 people year-round in multiple businesses. What we just walked through is the side benefit of the business we were able to grow, doing the renovations. This is the functional side of our shop, where we're, in this particular case, building some new column bases for some 24-inch diameter, 20-foot tall wooden pillars. Takes quite a bit of special machinery to do that work. So it's not your run-of-the-mill carpentry, quite a bit of special skill. Archway trim to go over an eyebrow window that's being rebuilt. We make custom furniture now with the same carpenters, because there's not always a historic building to restore. Obviously, the format that we've come up with keeps all these people busy year-round. I can't express enough how important the Missouri Historic Tax Credit has been to our business and our family. From a small company, we were able to grow tremendously through utilization of the tax credits.
In the last 10 years, we have created $100 million worth of projects. That's our total project cost. And on the books right now, we have another $100 million in the works. For each of those $20 million jobs, we're probably creating just shy of 200 job year construction workers.
I would say 40 people have had full-time jobs over the last 10 years. These are people who may be single earner households, have children.
From bankers, architects, to tuck pointers, accountants, and everything in between.
The current threat to the tax credit program is that the amount of money that's allocated to it will be reduced to the point where the program will cease to function properly. Initially, the tax credit program was created without a cap. The point was that people needed to know that when they went through the whole application process and built the tax credit incentives into their financing packages, by the time they finished the projects, that the dollars would be there for them to redeem.
I don't know whether I should be starting a project in Missouri now because I don't know if the credits will be there. So I'm very hesitant to start too much in Missouri, so we're going to Kansas and Iowa where we know we have a set program and they don't keep messing with it each year. The last time we did a project in Missouri, we had a huge haircut, sort of had a bad taste in our mouth, so we went elsewhere for a while. Took 100 construction jobs and went to other states.
I saw a decline in our bid requests, our action requests, that just followed right in line with the caps being placed. And it is really showing through on what people are able to do in town.
So the more certainty we have, the less risk, the better financing we can do, the better projects we can do, the more jobs we can create, the better product we can put out. And in our case, when we do rental housing, slightly lower rent for the consumer.
Since its inception, the Rehabilitation Tax Credit has leveraged over $7 billion in private investment, created more than 43,000 jobs, generated $2.60 in tax revenue for every dollar invested by the state, stabilized historic neighborhoods, and reinvigorated downtown areas. It's also created benefits that are harder to quantify, such as reducing sprawl, reducing the volume of landfill associated with demolition, attracting tourism, improving community morale, and creating unique environments that are attractive to young, knowledge-based workers. In fact, the program's been so successful that other states have created tax credits of their own that are modeled after Missouri's innovative design.
I've seen this program work all over the state. I've seen it work from West Plains to Lexington to St. Louis. I'm realistic about it as well. I know that there are some things that could be more efficient, and I'd like to see those things improved. But rather than dismantling the most effective economic development program that the state has ever seen, I'd rather see our legislature working to make a great program even better.